please give our presenter a warm MBI welcome?
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me. She was correct. I've been in the industry for 46 years, right? Started when I was 20, so that gives you an idea of where I'm at today, right? But it's an industry that I fell in love with, and I enjoy it because I think it's there for a purpose, and it's always been there for a purpose. The feature of this is necessity breeds innovation, right? And I can tell you that from my standpoint, that's been all the way back as long as history's been there. It's been that way. Can you imagine the innovation that was circled around building the first wheel of any kind, whether it's built out of stone, wood, or wherever? Everybody was out there doing their thing, and they didn't even have a wheel to help them do anything easier and more effective. And so imagine the guy that created that. Pretty popular guy, my guess is. And then we went from the wheel to cars. We finally didn't have to ride animals and horses everywhere we were going because somebody said, enough of this, right? We got to get there better. We got to get there quicker. We got to get there without being quite so sore. And so innovation's been going on forever, even down to somebody finally said, we've got to have some light, and light was created and light bulbs were created. So if you look back over time and over history, innovation's been a part of our life since time began, right? And it was to solve problems and to innovate, to get around issues. Today, a little bit closer to our time, I'm sure that most of you guys remember this. At one time, this is how we built automobiles, right? And you can tell that there's a lot of labor in that. And then imagine today if we were still doing it this way. Imagine how many people would be in factories everywhere trying to build and to meet the demand of what was needed for people to have an automobile so they could travel in. So what did they do? Somebody said, this is enough, right? We're not going to meet the demand with the way we're currently going. We've got to change, right? And so they innovated and they created automation for automobiles. And it's kind of interesting. Today, they can build a complete car every 53 seconds. That's pretty amazing. And if you look back at the other picture, there was no way they were going to get a car built in 53 seconds. What if we could build housing every 53 seconds? We probably wouldn't have the housing issues that we have today. People would have housing, right? But today, that's not where we're at. We've gone through our struggles. Necessity is demanding that we change the way we do things in construction because we were complacent in all types of construction. We were complacent. We had the labor. We had all these different things. We were building, we were supplying, and we look at it today, and we have a tremendous housing shortage across the world, let alone the United States. In each and every one of our states, we have a housing shortage, and then we have even a greater issue with affordability of housing shortages. Other industries took off, they saw what was coming, and they went to technology, right? If you looked at agriculture, they leveraged scale through land assembly and automation, deployed advanced pioneering, increasing output. Because today, if you look at it today, I know I live in Idaho, and it's a big farming community, right? And so today, when I travel from home and I'm going to work and I'm traveling around, I see apartment buildings going up everywhere, housing going up everywhere, right? And what did they displace when that happened? Farmland. Idaho's a farming state, right? And so when I look at that, I say, wow, look at all this housing going up. That's fantastic. But look at the farmland that's going away. But again, agriculture automated around that. They planned ahead. Manufacturing, they invented entirely new concepts of flow. Modularized and standardized design so they could manufacture and give us the things we need. And think about that for a minute. What if they hadn't done that? What do we own today that hasn't been manufactured? Have you ever thought about that? Everything we own has been manufactured, unless we went in our shop and built it. The only thing that still hasn't been mainstream and manufactured is housing. And if everything we own has been manufactured, why not housing? Retail, they scaled advantages, cutting edges, logistics to provide affordable goods. Construction, very limited improvements. They didn't seek out technologies. They didn't seek out new ways of doing things. And why would they? We had plenty of labor, everything was going fine, we're building, and we didn't have the crisis that we had today. So if you looked at all the industries throughout our world, you can see the differences. And notice that construction, and this is all types of construction, went backwards in productivity. And I want you to think about that. They spent the least in technology and went backwards in productivity. That kind of answers that question, doesn't it? Why? Right? So today, we're having to try to make up for that. Today, we're having a hard time meeting demands. We're having a hard time in affordability. We're having more and more people come up homeless. And then, out of nowhere, and nobody would have expected it, we get hit with the pandemic, right? And I can only imagine what it did to everybody in this room and all businesses, because it did it to mine and everyone else's. And we had to fight through that. It really limited where we were going and what we were able to get done. Because we were in lockdowns, we couldn't do this, we couldn't do that. And so not only did it affect all of our businesses, but it further put housing behind, not being able to reach the demands and reach the goals that were necessary. 4.4 million Americans left their jobs in September of 2021. Think about that number. That's a large number in our labor force. Mid-career employees were the ones that resigned at the fastest rate. And so when you hear that the Great Resignation, it was real. It was real, and it's still going on. We still have those issues. We're still trying to recover from that pandemic that hit us. And who knows what's coming at us more. But what we do know that our labor force has shrunk. Now, how many in this room expect our labor force to pop back up and be plentiful again? I would tell you that I don't believe that to be the case. I believe it may get worse than what it is today. And we're going to be forced to look at different innovative ways. And so what I love about being at the World of Modular is I'm surrounded by people that are innovators. I'm surrounded by people that do different types of manufacturing to try to help out the cause of housing. I look at all that and think, wow, I'm surrounded by a fantastic group of people. I live in an area in Idaho where we have great manufacturers, right? I believe we're one of them. But we're surrounded by National Home Builders, Gurdon Enterprises, all these people that have put their hard work in life into trying to improve our housing needs. And in each and every time, we're trying to convince others that now's the time. Now's the time that we can help. We have no interest in displacing because we can't do it without typical construction. So we believe it now is the time to do that, and we're trying to prove that every day. And that's just my area. Here at this stage, we've got Stack Modular. We've got all these different builders that are out there innovating in different ways. I was out South by Southwest, and I was on a panel with a group that was doing printing, digital printing for housing. Amazing. All these different things that are happening. And the nice part about that story is people are getting involved. People are looking at ways to change what we've been doing forever, because what we've been doing forever doesn't work anymore. Turnover's at an all-time high. Look at the turnover rates, right? And we all know what turnover costs us. You know, if you talk to a general contractor, if you talk to a construction worker, you talk to all those, one of the biggest issues is I need help. I can't find people. And it's not just the people that are out there doing the hard labor, it's engineers, it's supervision. All those people have left the fields and they're shrinking every day. So what do? Right? We can't throw our hands up and say, okay, this is the end of it. We're just all going to have to settle for a tent. We can't do that. So we're all coming together and we're trying to make a difference. And this event is a good sign of that. Hiring in 2023. 23% of employed Americans plan to quit in the next 12 months. That's not prior to the pandemic. This is after the pandemic. This is now. This is 2023. And study has shown this is what's to be expected. So imagine another 23% dropping out. And who's to say it stops at that? We don't know. All we can do is hope and pray that it doesn't get to another 23%, because then we really do have issues. And our issues are big enough as it is. I can tell you that most people cannot find or afford housing today. That may not affect us in this room, but most of the people in this country today can't afford housing. If you look at construction, and it's easy to see why, this study shows that 66% spend more than a quarter of their work hours waiting for other work to be done. Right? So if you're waiting for other work to be done, you're still getting paid for that work that you're waiting on. You're getting paid to wait, right? And you're waiting because you need to come in next. And so think about the longevity that adds to any project, because you're waiting on somebody else, right? And does that make sense? Well, in typical construction, it's always made sense, because that's the way it's always been done. One trade comes in, that trade leaves, another one comes in, that one leaves, and then finally you get to a finished building. Right? It's the way we have always done it. And today, with all the issues going around and circling around, we can't afford to do that anymore. Key factors in productivity: unforeseen change orders. We know that to be true. You go out there, you're starting to build. Next thing you know, this changes. And every time something changes, here's what I can tell you. It takes more time and it costs more money. Every time it changes. Okay. And I would guess that if I ask you to raise your hand of those out in the construction industry that never get a change order, I don't know if I'd see a hand raised. Because I know in manufacturing we get change orders. Weather. Well, this last year has been a good example of weather, right? And it's not just here, it's across the country. You got snows, and you got rains, you got floods, you got fires. Over here you got tornadoes, you got all these different things. How much construction activity can go on during those time periods? Most likely none. It doesn't work. You've got poor coordination between subcontractors. It is difficult on a site to organize and logistically put everything together so you have a smooth transition. I know that because I've had to do it. Right? You're on a site. You might have a 3 or 4 story building. Where's your workforce? They're all over that building. Right? But you have to be able to logistically plan on how to get that done, which slows construction down. And then sometimes you even run into stalled payments, and when you have stalled payments, everything stops, right? So that doesn't help the speed, and it increases the cost. Here's the end result. Because of construction, being complacent, doing what we've always done, look what we've seen. We've seen rent inflation go up to where, and I know you guys know people that are struggling right now to meet rents. I know people that have come to me personally and said, do you know where I can find a place to live? Well, wait a minute, you got a place to live. Nope, they just went up on the rent, $300 a month, and I can't afford that, right? And so now my family are out there looking for a place that we can afford to live, right? And for those individuals, the world stops when you don't have a place to live. You're struggling. You're in hyper mode trying to find something that's better, something that's more affordable, something that you can get into and continue to take good care of your family. 150 million people don't have an address. Now, this is worldwide, right? This isn't our country, this is worldwide. But our country has a large line share of that number right there. A large line share. So what's important about that? How many in here have children? You can raise your hand on that, right? You got young ones. You might even have parents. They're on fixed incomes, right? Because they have no other way to go out and work. They're on a fixed income. You got children, and I've got 4 daughters. I live it every day. And I fear for them. And here's why. When we were all raised, what was the expectation? Your mother and father was going to bring you up. They're going to give you all the tools for success. They were going to house you. They were going to feed you. They were going to teach you. They're going to mentor you, and they're going to send you to school. And when they got done with all that and you came out of school, what was the expectation? Right? The expectation is, whoop, you're on your own. Right? Because that's the way it should be. You're going to go start your life. You're going to go make your families. You're going to go build your career. How can you do that without an address? How can you do that when our children and our younger ones are going out there and saying, wait a minute, I've got an education, I'm here to work, I want to work, and I can't afford a place to live. I can't have a home, whether it be rent or purchase. I can't afford it. What do I do now, Dad? Right? And so when you think about that, we put them in a horrible situation because they don't have the same advantages that we had when I was that age. I can tell you that. And so I could tell you that life, everybody's life, has to have an address. When you don't have an address, what's the issues with that? Well, first of all, how do you communicate with somebody who doesn't have an address? How does somebody go get a job without an address? How does somebody collect mail without an address? Right? And then if you're that down and out and can't even afford a phone, how do you even communicate through life? So what are your chances for success? When we grew up, our chances for success were high. We're going to get out there, we're going to get in the world, we're going to go to work. We're going to make a living for everyone. Our children deserve the same thing. They deserve to be able to go out there and seek their dreams, build their futures, be able to build their families and raise their families. But they can't afford an address. That's the situation I see that we're in today. And I don't see that we're into it in a small way. I think it's huge and monumental, right? Here's what I could tell you from my viewpoint. Most Americans and most people in the world, the far majority, can't afford housing. We talk about affordable housing. I'm an affordable housing guy. Our company is based on affordable housing. That's what we're trying to solve. And I could tell you today that even with all the innovation and the technologies and all the things coming up, we're still missing the mark. It's still not affordable, right? It's still very high and continues to rise, right? What we really need to be focused on is attainable housing. We need to be able to attain that. And so when you have these industries out there between manufacturing and between typical construction, which we don't all together, we need to be working together to solve the problem. If you're in a business and you're in construction or if you're in manufacturing for the money, you're in it for the wrong reason. If you can't provide housing, there's no money to be made. If you can't control costs, there's no money to be made. If you can't make a difference for those that do not have an address, there's no money to be made. And if we look into our hearts and souls, that's not the reason why we should be doing it anyway. We should be doing it because we have a crisis, and it's a serious crisis. It's one where people need housing, and they're looking to our industry to provide it. They're not looking for agricultural, they're not looking for all, they're looking for the construction industry to grow it. Having said all of that, the one thing I love about this industry again is the manufacturing. You've got innovators that are coming in, they're trying to design plants, they're trying to design ways to help in our crisis. We want to work with all types of construction to make things better and to be able to produce. So we're very thankful that we were able to build this manufacturing plant. And we did that because of the Pacific communities. They're the ones that really made it possible for us to go out and build this manufacturing plant and show what we could do with new innovation and automation. House of Design Robotics, there was our integrator, and I could tell you they'd never done this before either, nor had we. But these were a group of risk takers. Why would you take that risk? Out of necessity. That's why you take risk, out of necessity. They needed to be able to produce in a different manner. And I'd be the first one to tell you that modular construction does not work for all projects, and it never will. If you're going to have a modular manufacturing plant, there's things that you can do, and there's a lot of things you can't do. So how do you meet in the middle to make those things happen? Us, preferably, we decided to have robots serve our people. We knew we had a labor shortage. We knew that it was going to get worse. We knew that people were tired of the heavy lifting because I can tell you in a manufacturing plant, there's a lot of heavy lifting. There's a lot of hard work. How do I know that? I grew up in it. I've done that work. And I can tell you that 40 years ago in my prime, I went home tired every night and wore out because it was hard work. And the only thing that could help me is somebody else standing beside me, right? Or two or three, depending on what you were trying to lift to move around. We decided to bring in automation and robotics for the first time in this country and the first time in our manufacturing systems here because of those very reasons. And what did we get out of that? We got a tremendous employee base. We got solutionaries that came in to work for us, and they wanted to work for us and get into construction because we were doing something different, and we were doing it for a reason, to try to help. And they understood that. And then we attracted all these people that you normally don't find in a manufacturing plant. These mental geniuses that came out of the woodwork everywhere because they were attracted to automation. They were attracted to making a difference. And so we have a very diverse group at Autovol. So this is a view of our plant, and this is what we all came together. We collaborated and worked about it, and this is what we came up with. And what you're seeing is you're seeing robotics doing the heavy lifting and most of the work. And you're seeing our solutionaires, people that have come into our industry, be able to shed themselves of that heavy lifting, be able to use their minds, do more things that they're fitted to do, and to be able to be more productive. And to be able to do it together in a controlled environment where all the materials are under house, everyone else is under house, you can communicate, you can collaborate, and you can organize for success. That's why Autovol was built. And again, I'm very thankful that we got the opportunity to build it because it has been a ride, believe me. It's one thing to go do something that you already know, even if it's a risk. It's something totally different to go do something you don't know for the first time. And to be able to trust other people, collaborate with other people to help you be successful doing it. But we have proved some points. Cost savings in some areas up to $100 a square foot. Those are high cost areas, so it's welcomed. It's welcomed by those folks that can't afford housing. We continue to work every day to try to get that better and better so we can be effective in low-cost areas as well, because they have the same problems that the high-cost areas got. Speed to market. We just set a new speed record of 102 units start to final set in 4 months. 4 months. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that further on. Labor, a reliable team of expert builders who enjoy coming to work because we created a culture in our company to where, that's why we're called solutionaires. They're not employees. They're not our labor pool. They're not a guy that works for me. They're solutionaires. They're people that came to our company to help us solve problems. And we laid the problem out in front of them. They understood the desire, they understood the need, and they seized the moment. And every day they're treated with great respect. Because who builds companies? CEOs don't build companies. Owners don't build companies. People build companies. For CEOs and for owners. And so who's to be served? Knowing that, who's going to be served? The people need to be served. Not ownership, not management. We're there to guide, we're there to direct, we're there to mentor, teach, and help them grow. Remove the roadblocks, let them be successful, give them their head, because most people can figure things out pretty quickly if given the opportunity. That's the reason why we're there. And that's the reason why people are so important. And it doesn't make any difference if you're on a site or if you're in a manufacturing plant. People are what's building your company and what's building your name. Diversity. Automation brought in an unbelievable amount of diversity that, quite frankly, I didn't expect. I expected some, but not to the point that we got to. 30% female. Females make a wonderful work source, right? They're smart, sometimes smarter than us, right? And we get that. But they were able to come in there and interject and actually play a part in being part of our resolution of the issues that we currently now. And then we've got 8 different countries represented in our manufacturing plant from all over the world. So we're a very diverse group, and that's been fun as well. is each other understanding each other, working together and collaborating together to make a difference. And this is an example of what all that gave way to. This is a building that we built in San Jose, right? That is an actual building. And I'll show you the results.
Bet you can't guess where this apartment is. Welcome to Autovol, the first automated construction plant of its kind. Building homes year-round inside a factory using robotics to combat rising living costs and bring cities affordable housing. It's faster, high quality, and we're just getting started. With over 200 solutioneers, we can build affordable housing measured in weeks on our assembly line. Once we're done, we ship finished units to the property, where the building is assembled and completed. Yeah, we made that in a factory, but you sure can't tell by living in it. Modern finishes and design without the heavy lifting and time. We're Autovol, making smart construction brilliant.
So that's what we do at Autovol. The reason I wanted to show that is you know how many people we have come in through our facility for the first time, and they have no idea what we're building. We're a manufacturing plant. We must be building mobile homes. We must be doing something different, right? They don't expect this when they come in. And still today, and we've done a lot of projects, and still today people come in, and here's what I could tell you. They come in, they see the manufacturing plant, they see the facility, they can understand all these benefits of having everything in one building, from training to collaboration to materials under protection, and it helps them feel less at risk. Because now they understand. And every time, not sometimes, every time on an exit, they look at me and say, I had no idea this is what you did. No idea. So, which is such a smart way to build still a niche, right? So these are back from 2019. It tells you the share of off-site housing. We see that Finland and Norway are taking the lead. We see the U.S., and it's 19, and there was only 3% using modular construction. So I knew this was old, so I ran into Tom Hardiman, and the guy that would know. And I said, Tom, the last data I've got is 3%. And he says, thank you, that's not true. We are now at 6.303%. So that's a positive. We've gained some insight. People have looked at us. We're starting to grow, but we still have much more to do. Some key reasons for is lack of education. Lack of education on both sides, I would add. You got a typical construction company, a general contractor, they're coming in, and if they've never done modular, they don't quite understand how that works, right? And so you collaborate. You help teach them and educate them on how manufacturing works and what's important for manufacturing, even down to what you can do and what you can't do, right? And then you do the same thing. They share their knowledge that they've got, far greater than manufacturing, what the on-sites are like. And why do we have those problems with on-sites? And we share, we collaborate. Fear of perceived risk. If I'm a developer or a GC for the first time and I'm going to build a modular project, am I going to feel like that's a risk? You bet I'm going to feel like that's a risk. You got a lot of money on the line. You got a lot of things on the line that if you fail, it would be hard to recover from. So you help them understand that maybe you have less risk this way than you do the typical way. Lack of commitment. People come in, they'll think about building modular, but you have to commit. Some people even agree to build modular, and then you don't see them again until the building's built. If you're new coming into the modular industry, what you need to do is collaborate and get the education and educate back. Collaboration's a two-way street, right? And so you can commit to what you're going to do. And when you say that you're going to commit, that means you're going to put your energies into the modular process. You're going to have people that can understand what's going on with module, and so how do we need to respond to module? You have to have that commitment and no looking back. And then lack of manufacturers. I could tell you today, with our housing needs, there's a tremendous lack of manufacturers if we're ever going to solve these problems. There is not enough manufacturers to even make a dent in the issue we have with housing. And why is there a lack of manufacturers? For all the reasons you just saw above. You have to have believers and developers and general contractors that come in and grow your business, right? Give you the depth that you need to go out and manufacture, because it's not an easy process and it's a time-consuming process. And so without that, who feels comfortable saying, yeah, I'll open a plant. I don't know what I'm going to build next week, but I'm going to open it and somebody will come. Build it and they'll come. That's not the case. It's been proven time and time again. When you build it, that doesn't mean they necessarily come. These are the things that we have to get past. And how do we get past those things? We know that we're at a tipping point. Modular is moving and wants to move towards mainstream. They want to be partners in this construction nightmare that we've got going on and be able to help where that help is needed and to be able to build housing for the future. We know that machines are serving people now. We've got one, right? And I could tell you that it's far from being where it'll be in the future. But it is a wonderful start and it works. We've proven that automation works. We've proven that rapid adoption to prefab and digital twins works not only for manufacturing, but also for on-sites. Getting that information ahead of time and be able to collaborate and work through that. And we know that off-site and on-site have finally started to team up. And not in the way that we would hope. We want it to be much larger, but it's a start. And everything that moves forward always has to have a starting point. We're there. This is a fine example of it. Developer RCD and Nibby Brothers, general contracting company out of Northern California, came to us and we discussed building a project for them. And it was a project that they really needed to get built. It was a shorter time frame project, and we agreed that let's move forward. Now here's what's kind of interesting. They come to us and they've never done modular before, so you can imagine what they're thinking, right? They're coming to us and they've never done modular before, and you can imagine what we're thinking, right? And here's what was nice. The leader of that group said, let's make a model of how this thing is really supposed to work. Let's put our focus on that. And they fully committed. This is the teams between Autovol, RCD, and our developer, our general contractor. But they committed. And here's what they did in commitment. They were there. They were there at the facility. They were there with engineering. They were there out on the plant floor. They were there understanding everything and helping teach us things that we weren't aware of. They taught us many things that we could be doing better, and we did it. But that was a collaboration between two people for one project of success. Digital twin, again, they were able to use that. What you're seeing there on the screen there is part of their project, right? And so that not only guides our robots in our plant, but it also guides the on-site teams for their construction, because we can give them so much information on what they're going to need once it gets to site. This is the project that we built with Nibby Brothers, Sango Court. I can tell you it was 120 units. And from the time we started manufacturing to the time they had the building set on site was 120 days. I was talking to them this morning. They expect that project to be done and turned over in June. So it's amazing. But it was amazing because of the teams that came together and actually collaborated to make it happen. But this gives you a good example why. I would tell you that it was interesting. Their site is the cleanest site I've ever seen. They were the best organized that I've seen. And it went very well. And why is that? Because we worked together, right? There was no prides, there were none of this. Let's get this job done, and what's our best way of doing it? And I could tell you that if we build another one with Nibby, it'll be better than this one, because now we know each other. They've got a sense of it, we've got a sense of it, and we'll just be better for it. And this is our teams here, Autovol and them on site, because we were there on site to help guide, direct, and do everything we could to make sure we had a successful project. Here's what I would tell you. We're better together. And we need each other. We need each other for all the reasons that I talked about earlier. We need to be able to produce housing for all of our companies. We need to produce housing for the people that need housing tremendously bad and can't get it. And we need to continue to work on ways to lower that cost so it's more affordable to more people. And I believe that it's going to be the same as innovation. We're going to see this take off, and we're going to see it getting less expensive as we go because we've refined it. On-site and off-site collaboration is the key. Developer, GC, manufacturing, architect, all working together for one cause. And with that, we can build a field of addresses. These are all representing addresses that's coming out of one manufacturing plant. And where I'm from, we're surrounded by great manufacturers. So imagine what we could do if we join forces, if we come together for a cause. So I encourage everybody. We named our people solutioneers for the very reason that I told you earlier. And I would encourage everyone to be a solutioneer in their own right? The definition of a solutioneer, a person who is among the first to explore, design, and build innovative ways to solve problems that overcome new challenges and situations. By the way, you won't find that in Webster's dictionary. Our CFO, Kyle Gantz of Autovol, came up with that definition when we came up with the word. And we thought it was a perfect fit for what we were trying to accomplish and for the people that we brought into our company. It's a video that you can download if you'd like to share. Thank you. Questions?